The Atlantic slave trade, occurring from the late 15th to the mid-19th century and spanning 3 continents, forcibly brought more than 10 million Africans to the Americas.
The map shows that the slave trade formed a triangle in the Atlantic Ocean. The slave ship left England with rum, guns, knives, textiles, and jewelry, and would proceed to Africa for trading for slaves. From West Africa to the West Indies, it was called the Middle Passage, a trip of about 7 weeks. At the Caribbean ports of Havana and Jamaica, slaves are traded. Sugar or molasses are purchased to ship back to the United States or Great Britain to be turned back into rum, and the triangle starts all over again.
The crops grown in the new colonies, sugarcane, tobacco, and cotton, were labor-intensive, and there were not enough settlers or indentured servants to cultivate all the new land. And so, to meet the massive demand for labor, the Europeans looked to Africa. When white captains came offering weapons and rum for slaves, African kings and merchants had little reason to hesitate. They viewed the people they sold not as fellow Africans, but criminals, debtors, or prisoners of war from rival tribes.
So step 1 is when African tribal leaders routinely kidnap men, women, and children from their neighboring tribes and villages in raids. Step 2, the African tribal leaders then sell their kidnapped collection to the Portuguese, Spanish, English, or to the New Yankees. Step 3, the captured slaves are marched to the ports on the slave coast in chains of slaves. Marches sometimes lasted weeks. Step 4, slave ships are fully packed from 200 up to 900 and sailed to the West Indies, Brazil, or Lisbon. However, before they got across the Middle Passage to the West Indies, the sick and dying slaves are routinely thrown overboard. Step 5, slave traders or buyers buy the slave at auction. Step 6, slaves are now shipped into their final destination in the colonies or to British, Dutch, French, or Portuguese colonies.